Hello, welcome to Senior Insights. My name is Cynthia, and today we're going to be talking about the benefits of a well-stocked pantry. You're going to save money and you're going to be prepared. So let's get started and talk about it. Join me as I share my tips and tricks for building a pantry. Now, I'm coming at it from a whole different perspective. As you probably have seen on a lot of channels, there's a lot of preparedness going on. The focus of this video is actually to be prepared if you want to bake something. Say you decide you're going to bake this cake, and how many times have you made a decision to make something and then not have the ingredients that you needed, and they're all basic ingredients? So actually stocking up your pantry, even if you don't have much space, can be a lot of fun. If you watch the video that I posted, well, I'm recording this on Tuesday, and I posted it this morning actually, was decluttering my cabinets, and I took an inventory after I did it. I didn't mention it on the video, but I did do an inventory of what I actually had because I wanted to use that in developing a preparedness video. So here I am. Hopefully I'll just cover the basics of preparedness, from organizing to stocking up on essentials. Once again, this is not emergency preparedness. This is not for the apocalypse or the evacuation or anything, although it would be helpful, and we could go into that if people are interested. But my goal is not to make people anxious or uneasy or even imply that something awful is happening. So my goal is to make you enjoy using what you have, making you feel comfortable that you have the things that you need if you choose to make something just impulsively. Lots of times, even though I don't particularly like cooking, I have said, I think I'm going to make some brownies, and then I realize, well, I don't have any cocoa. Or I think I'll make cookies and I don't have any chocolate chips. So if you understand, hopefully you can understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying be prepared for the floods and the hurricanes, and those poor people that had those floods several months ago. They could have been prepared up the yin-yang and nothing would have helped them with their houses flooding away. So this is not what I'm talking about. I want you to discover the benefits of having a well-stocked pantry and learn how to create one that works for you. I mean, everybody's different, and when you see what I'm doing and what I'm recommending, I'm coming at from, I'm a single person. I'm just one person. I just have to stock my pantry for one person. But another single person might come in here and say, wow, you have a lot of stuff. So everything is relative. We're all different. We all do things differently. We all look at things differently. So I am a believer that if you keep your pantry well stocked, it'll be more convenient for you. It'll be less stress and anxiety for you. It'll be less impulsive trips to the grocery store. And you will save money, because as you're building your pantry, you don't have to build your pantry all at once. No, absolutely not. But I'm going to show you a method that really worked for me when I was a director of nursing. I was a director of nursing for a long time. And one of my responsibilities was I was responsible for ordering and maintaining the medical supplies. In other words, I had to make sure that there were always the supplies that the staff needed to carry on their jobs. And so I'll share with you the method that I used, and you can see if it works for you. I think it's a great method, and maybe you do it already. I think you'll have flexibility, you'll have peace of mind, and having a well-planned pantry can just make a big difference in your life. I would suggest that you watch my video on decluttering. It was just released yesterday, so it should be pretty easy to find. I have a tendency to stockpile a few things and then I'm not consistent with other things. So my goal with this and with stockpile, with being prepared, is to have an even quantity, to know exactly what I have at all times, and to keep it that way, so that if I want to make something, I can. So after my last video, I did an inventory of everything that I had just in those two cabinets. And today I'm just going to go over one of the cabinets and how I believe that it should be stocked for preparedness. Preparedness if I want to bake something or make something. Not if I had a flood or if I had to evacuate the home. So I think, I don't know what I was going to say. I was going to say that I have a philosophy, and it's sometimes not a good philosophy, and sometimes it is good. Maybe in this instance it is good. I believe that you should have things just in case. Now, that doesn't work when you're trying to declutter, but if you're trying to keep your pantry stocked, it works for the most part. I'm sure that you'll find, and there'll be some comments otherwise. So I know there are a lot of people out there. One of the women in this community, she has gallon buckets of rice and flour and stuff, and I believe in that too. But that is not what I'm talking about. So let's figure out how to do this. So the first thing that I would recommend is that you take everything out of your cabinets or your pantry or whatever. Unfortunately, I don't have a pantry, so my pantry is my cabinets. And my pots and pans and dishes as well, which you haven't seen. You will eventually, because I'm going to go through them all, and I am going to share my wisdom with you. First thing you have to do is take them all out. You can consolidate things, maybe. You can clean off all your jars and bottles, clean out your cabinet. One woman in the comments from the previous video actually says, "Don't we use shelf paper anymore?" And she said she did. I always use shelf paper. You didn't see it in that video, but I do have shelf paper. I removed it so that I could clean out the cabinets, and then when I saw some of it, it was kind of grungy, and I chose not to put it back in that particular cabinet because I didn't have any on hand. But the next time I do that, I will definitely put shelf paper in, because I believe that shelf paper is a good thing because it conserves your cabinets, for one thing. It prevents wear and tear, and it prevents messy things. The other thing that I do that I'm not sure you noticed, but in my oil, for my oil bottle, for example, my vegetable oil bottle, I always put it in another container. I put it in like a yogurt container so the bottom sits in it, and I put a paper towel in it, because inevitably you're going to have some dripping or some slow leak from that bottle that's going to go down the side of the thing. If it's in your cabinet, even if you have shelf paper, I have had it, trust me, drip over the edge of the cabinet, and then that's not a good thing. And it's not a good thing for the shelf paper, because then it's all greasy. Same thing with honey. I keep it in a small little, like a cream cheese container or yogurt container, whatever fits the bottom of the container is what I use. And I always put a paper towel in it, and then when I go through the cabinet, I change that paper towel and clean out any sticky mess. There always is a sticky mess. Molasses is another thing that I do. Syrup I keep in my refrigerator, so that I don't find that as much of an issue. But all of those things in your cabinet, you want to keep your cabinet clean and free of stickiness, because especially now with spring, ants are coming. And I don't have them all the time, but I do have them occasionally. It's really funny how the ants are different. But what does this have to do with stocking your pantry? This is a problem that I have, isn't it? I'm sorry. Anyway, so the first thing you have to do is take out all your stuff. You have to consolidate it. You've got to figure it out. You've got to clean out your area. And then you've got to return it. Hopefully you're putting shelf paper down. Hopefully you're putting containers under the things that potentially may leak. And you're going to take an inventory. You should take an inventory of what exactly you have. Do you have 1 bottle of oil? And I'm not going to go into ounces because everybody's bottle is a different size. I get a large bottle, but then I fill it up into a smaller bottle so that it fits comfortably in my cabinet. So you may look at my bottle and say, well, that's not very much oil, but I have some more in a stash up above. So only you know what you need and what you have on hand. So try and figure it out. My one might not be your one. And put everything back in its place. And hopefully you'll have a little bit of room. Now, I told you I was a director of nursing and that I was in charge of the supplies, making sure that we had enough supplies, that we never ran out. Well, in order to do that, what I did was I created a system, I called it my inventory system. And basically what it was is you know what you're starting out with, so that's your inventory. And then you know the lowest you can go with any product, the highest you can go, because you don't want to be spending crazy money unless you're preparing for the catastrophe. And then how much you have to purchase to stock your cabinet. It's really easy and it's kind of fun. I just did it a few minutes ago. I only did it for that first cabinet because I don't want to overwhelm you, and I don't want to bore you either, because talking about vegetable oil isn't necessarily the most exciting thing in the world. But hopefully I will be able to show you what I did. I'll tell you and then I'll show you. And I'd love to hear what you think about it in your comments, if you think it's something that would work, if you think it's ridiculous, whatever. But what I developed was a form that has several columns, what your product is, the minimum amount you want to have on hand, the maximum amount you want to have on hand, and what you actually need to purchase to develop that list. So maybe I can actually do this. Okay. Let me figure this out. Okay. So this product, the first thing that I have is molasses on my list. And I thought about it and I said, well, how much molasses do you really need? How much do you use, say in a decent amount of time? And I don't use that much molasses. However, I would like to have it if I chose to make hermits or molasses cookies. So what I did was I said, well, I can probably get away with a minimum of a half a jar of molasses. But it would be sort of nice to have 2 jars, so I'd never really run out. And then I looked at what I actually have on hand. So I have a half a jar of molasses. So what I wrote down under the need is when I go grocery shopping, if I choose to fill this, then I should get 1 jar of molasses. Then I looked at my honey, and I had decided that 1 jar of honey would be good. That my maximum amount was 2 jars of honey. I don't use it an awful lot, but I use it in my granola. Sometimes when I have an herbal tea, I'll use it in my tea. So I want to have at least 1 jar of honey at all times. I looked at what I had on hand. I had 3/4 of a jar. So in order to get that up to the maximum amount, I'm going to buy another jar when I go grocery shopping. Actually, I'm not buying it until I see it on sale. I'm only buying things when I see it on sale. But this will be an excellent list to go by. So if I buy 1 jar of honey, that means I will have 1 3/4 jars of honey, almost 2 jars of honey, which is my maximum amount. My maple syrup, I buy those in the pints. I always like to have maple syrup on hand because, I mean, it's good on pancakes, right? Good on French toast, but it's also good in recipes. I make granola with maple syrup. Sometimes you can put it on ice cream, you can put it on fruit, you can use it as another sweetener. So maple syrup is a good thing to have on hand, and it's also fairly expensive to buy maple syrup. So I always buy my maple syrup on sale, but I always buy real maple syrup. So in my opinion, I need to have 2 pints of maple syrup at all times. And the most I need is 3. The reason I determine the maximum amount is how I use it, where I can store it, etc. So I have 1.5 pints of maple syrup on hand. So I would like to get 1 more maple syrup, which would give me 2.5 pints of maple syrup. So I'm over my minimum amount. My vegetable oil, a minimum of 1, a maximum of 3. I have a half a bottle on hand, so I need to get at least 1. And once again, the vegetable oil is up to you. I'm using 1 as a number. It can be 1 pint, it can be 1 quart, it can be 1 gallon, whatever works for you. This is 1 quart, I believe, and the maximum amount I can have is 3 because I don't have any place to store it. But you know how many times that you have something that calls for half a cup of vegetable oil, 3/4 of a cup of vegetable oil, and God forbid if you ever decided that you wanted to fry something, which I never do, but if you did, you need a lot of vegetable oil. So I'm going to buy 1 more vegetable oil. I say I need 1 more vegetable oil, and I'll buy it when it's on sale. And then I will have 2 things of vegetable oil. I'll have 1.5 things of vegetable oil. Okay, the olive oil. The least I can have is 1 because I use olive oil quite a bit too. I don't use it as much as I use vegetable oil or canola oil or whatever kind of oil you actually use. But I think a maximum amount is 3. I have a half of a bottle on hand, so I need to buy at least 1 olive oil to beef up my supply. Coconut oil. 3/4 of a thing of coconut oil is fine. I don't need any more than that. I don't use it that often. I use it in my granola because I like the way the flavor it imparts. So my minimum amount is 3/4 of a thing. My maximum amount is 1. I have 3/4 on hand, so I don't really need to buy any coconut oil. Then I have, I don't know what kind of oil that is. Wait 1 second. Oh, spray oil, like Pam. Now I gotta figure out how to do this. Okay, spray oil, like Pam. I like to have 2 on hand at all times because I have run out in the past. I don't like that. So 3 is the most that I would need. Right now I have 1. So if I'm interested in keeping my pantry stocked with spray oil, then I need to think about getting another one. I'm sure you're getting the picture by now, but I'm going to subject you to the whole thing so that you can challenge me. Oh, gosh. I cannot figure this out. Okay, vinegars. Apple cider vinegar. I have a minimum of 1, a maximum of 2. I have 1 on hand. I'm not going to buy any because my minimum is still 1. So I'm still within the minimum. Now I have rice vinegar. That's something that I don't use that much. I think I can get away with a half a bottle at all times, because usually when you're using vinegar, it's only like a quarter of a cup or of a couple teaspoons or whatever. My maximum would be 1 bottle, and on hand I'd have 3/4 of a bottle, so I don't need any rice vinegar. White vinegar, 1 bottle. You need to have white vinegar because remember, you're going to be rinsing your vegetables, so you might need actually more than one. But I'm going to say a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 2, and I only have 1, so I'm going to buy another one. White wine vinegar, I have a minimum of half, maximum of 1. I have on hand 3/4, so I'm not going to buy any white wine vinegar. Red wine vinegar, half a bottle, 1 is a maximum. On hand, I've got 3/4 of a bottle. I don't need any more. If I wanted to make a special salad dressing that called for red wine vinegar, I have it. And balsamic vinegar, I think that 1 is a good minimum, 2 is a maximum, and I have 1 on hand, so I'm not going to get any, because I also have those fancy ones that I have on my counter that I bought on vacation. That was a splurge purchase, that I love the way they look on the counter, and I'm afraid to use them because they were so expensive. So anyway, that's how I did one side of that cabinet. And then on the other side of the cabinet was things like rice, or on another shelf was the rice, the macaronis, and the pastas. So I did this same thing with the white rice. 1 bag. Now it can be a 5-pound bag, it can be a 3. Then there's the brown rice. I have 1 bag is my minimum. Maximum is 3. I have 2, so I don't have to buy any. Lentils, I always like to have them on hand because sometimes I get the urge to make lentil soup. So the minimum amount I can have is 3/4. Usually it's just, when you're using lentils, it's a half a cup or a third of a cup. So that's plenty to have on hand. The maximum amount would be 2 bags. I have 3/4 of a bag, so I'm not going to get any lentils. And then the same goes for the beans, the kidney beans, and the peas. I'm not going to go through all of them because I'm sure you've either turned me off right now or you're sick of it. But do you get the idea? You do your inventory, you know how much you have, you know how much you'd like to have, what the minimum amount is, what the maximum amount is, and then from that you can make your grocery list. Of course, for something like this, you can almost eyeball a grocery list, but like I said, it's kind of fun to do it. And then you can pick and choose. Well, I need 1 thing of molasses. Do I have to buy it now, or can I wait till it's on sale? Wait until it's on sale. Chances are you're not going to. But when you decide you want to make hermit cookies or molasses cookies, you will have all those things on hand. So I'm a strong believer in having things on hand so that when you need them, you will have them. One of the next cabinets that I'm going to go through is my baking cabinet. I have a baking cabinet that has my flour, my sugar, my brown sugar, my confectionery sugar. So I'm going to do the same thing with that, and then that will determine what I actually need in my baking pantry, closet, cabinet, whatever you want to call it. So what you need to do is get your cabinets organized. And like I said, this is not for an emergency. This is just in case you want to bake a cake. You'll have all the ingredients. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you try some of these ideas. Please write in the comments. I'm sure that there are people out there that have much better ideas than this. This is just the way I learned when I was being a nurse in an administrative position where I was in charge of all the purchasing. I developed the system, but I never used it for myself with my pantry. But it just occurred to me the other day when I was cleaning out that pantry, that's what I should do. So that's what I'm doing. So please comment, like, subscribe, and let us know what you do. And I'll see you in the next video, maybe at the baking pantry, or maybe I better do something spicy pretty soon.